What's the future of real estate? Wow, what a huge question. That's the question I'm going to pose of our guest in this show. Last week in Real Estate Uncut, my guest was Daniel Argent from Urban Property Agents, one of the leading agents in Brisbane. He joins me now to tackle this subject because it's something that he and I spoke a lot about off air. G'day, Daniel. Good to have you in the show. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Kevin.
The future of real estate. A lot of people talking about the Uber of real estate, how we're going to be under threat. I know from talking to you privately that you don't share that view. Tell me why.
Kevin, everyone's always looking over their shoulder, scared of the Uber of real estate that's about to pounce. You know, what's realestate.com going to do? What's Google going to do? What's Uber going to do? Everyone's constantly, looking out for that. But I don't believe that there's any Uber coming for real estate. I think that all we need to do is actually have a look at how Uber got disrupted and learn the lessons from that, and we're completely safe and we're completely fine.
It's a bit of a cozy view, I think, because if we look at what Uber has done to the taxi industry, it's decimated it. Why wouldn't the same thing happen to the real estate industry? Why are we immune to that sort of threat?
Yeah. So, Kevin, it's completely decimated the taxi industry. Back just 5 years ago, Uber had an 8% market share. Today, they have a 70% market share. 5 years ago, the cost of a taxi license was over $300,000. Today, it's about $70,000. So you're exactly right. Ubers have decimated the taxi industry. But just stop and think for a minute. How different is an Uber from a taxi? It's still a person picking you up in a car from point A and dropping you off to point B. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not a hovercraft service. It's not a teleport service. It's exactly the same. It's just slightly better, isn't it? It's just slightly better. Like, you don't need to call up. You can just order on an app. You don't need to say where you're going because you've already put the address into the app. You don't need to have your wallet or any money with you because it automatically just charges the cost from your credit card. They're not allowed to talk on the phone while they're driving. They've got a car charger in the car so you can charge your phone. And there's mints in the cup holder or ashtray so you can have a nice breath when you arrive at your meeting or on your date or wherever you're going to. I mean, when you stop and think about it, it's like 2% better than a taxi, and yet that's all that the taxi industry needed to get completely decimated.
Well, just on that.
So if you have a look at the real estate industry, just as an example, the reason why we're not going to get decimated is because I believe we're smart enough to learn the lesson from the Uber and taxi industry, and all we need to do is just improve 2%, and we're completely safe. I mean, there is no way if the taxi industry disrupted itself and just made those slight little tweaks I just mentioned, phone charger, free mints, don't talk while you're driving your passengers around, Uber never would have stood a chance.
Just on that point then, if you think about the taxi industry for a moment, basically controlled by, in each area, just maybe a couple of companies, black and white, yellow, and so on, just to mention a couple of very well-known worldwide names. They were very complacent as far as they were concerned. They had an industry that was going to tick along. They didn't take particular care of, their selection of drivers because they just needed more drivers. Yet the real estate industry, in some ways, is a bit the same. It's like there's a real estate agency on every corner. Have we got too many agencies? Is it too easy to get into our industry? Are these some of the global challenges we need to take care of, as opposed to just saying we need to offer better service?
Kevin, it's a great statement that you make, and I think the issue is not what we do, but how we do it. And so if we look at our own industry, it is absolutely time for us to evolve. It's time for us to move with the times. This is what the taxi industry didn't do. And even today, if you look at them, they don't have an app, or if they do have an app, it's terrible. It is not a hard thing to do. I think if we look at real estate, most of the major brands that we have today started between 1888 and 1939. That was a long time ago, Kevin. That was before the internet came out. That was before personal computers came out. That was certainly before iPhones came out. That's when most of the major brands that we have today started. And How did they advertise properties back then? Well, if you wanted to buy a property in your local area, you'd go down to the local corner or the local high street and you'd look in the agency windows. You'd see the cards in the window. You know, your friendly agent would come out, put you in his car and drive you around and show you houses. But it doesn't work that way anymore, Kevin. Nowadays, buyers and sellers look online, they do their own research, and they meet you at the property. So if we have a look at the model as it stands today, and this is where the disruption comes, we have, on average in Australia, 2 real estate agencies in every single suburb. Now, obviously, they're more concentrated in some suburbs than others, but that's what it averages out to. 2 real estate agencies, physical real estate stores in every single suburb. And I believe that's what's going to change. I don't think we need to have a physical store in every single suburb. What I do think is we need to have agents in every single area. Hyper-local agents providing fabulous service to their clients, and that's all we need. I believe agents are the future, not agencies.
Thinking of the taxi industry again just for a moment, it's a sweeping statement to say that the taxi industry is its own worst enemy, because you can get into a taxi, a traditional taxi, and I've been in a number of them that are very good. They're nice and clean. The drivers are quite polite. So they're not all tarred with the same brush. Same could apply to real estate. You've got some very good real estate agents and you've got some very ordinary ones.
Yeah.
I sometimes struggle with how our industry, you know, we can become blasé and think that we're not under threat when, you know, we probably really are, and we've got to make sure that as an industry we do something about that.
Yeah, sure. So I think a couple of things on that, Kevin, and I'll probably say 3 things in total. Number one, it's all about training. You know, there has got to be a lot of training for real estate agents, and I'm talking like daily or weekly training. We're in an industry where we're dealing with people's biggest assets. You know, I'm a huge fan of CPD, continuing professional development. You know, we don't have that in many areas in our industry, but it doesn't have to be compulsory. We can volunteer to do it. You know, constant training. What are you learning every single day to be better? I think that's number one. Number 2, Kevin, is it's all about transparency. Yeah, if you are going to a restaurant, you're going to try something new, what are you going to do? You're going to Google it. You know, you want to go to a new restaurant, you're going to Google it. You want to try something else out, you're going to Google it. I believe that transparency is ultra important in our game and not something to be scared of. Rate My Agent's been out for a long time. Realestate.com have now released their rating section on their website. So it's going to be really easy to get found out if you're great or if you're not great. And so as transparency starts to work its way through our industry, there'll be no hiding behind poor service anymore. And I think the agents who provide great service will excel, and the ones who provide bad service will probably get pushed out. And lastly and finally, I don't think we can continue paying real estate agents the way that we have. Now, I'm not talking about commission. Commission is completely fair in my mind. I don't think anyone questions paying 2.5% to sell their house. We already talked about it's one of the 3 most stressful times in your life: death, divorce, and moving. And so no one's outsourcing any of the other ones. I don't think they're going to outsource, you know, real estate and wanting to start do it themselves. And so 2.5% is a really fair fee. But where I think it gets screwed up is that the way the model works now is you've got those offices in every single suburb, and because of the overheads in those suburbs, or the overheads of running those offices in every suburb, the agent generally takes 10% off the top to go to a franchise, which in nowadays is really not so relevant. And then they only get 50% of the other 90%, meaning that they're only getting 45% before tax. And then after tax, maybe 25%. None of these things are conducive to, you know, providing great service, working hard, investing back in yourself, investing back in a team. And so I believe that the Uber, or the future of real estate, if you want to call it that, Kevin, is actually empowering real estate agents to be the best that they can be and paying them appropriately for that. And to do that, we've got to move away from having an agency in every single suburb.
Okay. Well, putting the money aside for a moment, because I agree with you, by the way, but putting that aside, can I just ask you then, how hard is it to be great? How do you get good?
Kevin, it is really, really easy to be great. You know, something that I say to people all the time is, to be great, just don't be shit. And I know that might sound bad, but what I'm trying to make it clear is that it's so easy to be great. I remember when I first got into real estate, people used to say to me all the time, "Oh my gosh, Daniel, you're amazing. You're the best agent I've ever dealt with." And I used to think, what are they talking about? Like, I would just ring people back and they would say, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for calling back." And I'd be like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "We've left so many messages for agents and none of them have called back." Or you reply to an email inquiry and people reply and they say, "Thank you for replying." No one's replying. I think if you just reply to inquiries, you're in the top 20%. If you actually greet people when they arrive at your open home and collect their name and number, you're in the top 20%. If you call people back after looking at a property, you're in the top 20%. If you turn up on time, you're probably in the top 10%. You know, just recently, I went and looked at a property. I still haven't heard from the agent. What I'm saying is it's really easy to be great. If you just get back to basics and do the basics really super well, you're going to be seen as amazing. That's all people want. They don't need you doing backflips or anything, you know, crazy. Just do the basics well and you'll be great. And you know, Kevin, can I just say that's the opportunity in this industry? You know, like I'm in Brisbane and there's 6,000 agents in Brisbane. And last year, only 30 of us wrote over $1 million in GCI. So that puts me in the top 0.5%. Like, that is the tip of the needle. And I think all you've got to do is call people back, follow up on inspections, arrive on time, do your just listeds, just sold, 20, 20, 40. Like, as long as you do your most basic tasks, you can work your way up to that, you know, top 1%, top 0.5%. That, to me, is the opportunity, Kevin.
It's almost like to be good, all you've got to do is turn up. Or do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, do what you say. You know, Kevin, can I just say, I just always thought about this. If I was selling my house, how would I want to be treated? Yeah, I mean, that's really just the simplest, most basic form that you can put it. If I was selling my house, how would I want to be treated? You know, something as simple as this, Kevin. So whenever I do an inspection on a client's property, I promise them that within 5 minutes of leaving, I will call them and tell them how the inspection went. Do you know why that's so easy? Because I finish the inspection, lock up the house, get back in the car, and what do you reckon I do in the car driving back to the office for my next meeting?
Them. Yeah.
That's all I do. Like, it's really easy. But if you're a vendor and you know that your agent has just shown a buyer through your property, what do you reckon they're thinking?
Yeah, they want to know straight away. What was the reaction?
Yeah,
because we lose sight of that fact that, you know, we're doing this all the time. You may have 10, 15, 20, I don't know, even 30 clients, and each one of them needs to feel as if they are the only one. And the only way you'll do that is by having disciplines like the one you just mentioned, because not every agent does that. And it's only because it's not a discipline. It's not something they've said that they will do.
I would say maybe 5% do it. But, you know, can I just say on that, Kevin, you might have 10 listings or you might have 20 listings, but to your client, that's the only listing that they have.
Yes, that's right. And
so it's everything that's going on in their world. You know, like, people talk about dogs. I love dogs. I've got 2 dogs. And, you know, to me, they're one part of my life. To them, I'm their entire life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's kind of the same with your vendors. You can go, they're just one of 15 vendors or one of 20 vendors or one of 5 vendors. But to them, that's their only listing. And you're selling it. And they've trusted you, only you, to sell that property for them. They are hyper invested in that process. And so, look, Kevin, I think a couple of basics, you know, just call within 5 minutes of leaving every inspection. You know, I mean, to be honest, you'll probably call within 10 seconds, because as soon as you get in the car, you're going to, you know, just get on the phone and tell them how it went. It can be, it took them through, seem interested, want to bring the wife back next week, done. It can be like a 10-second call, but they're not wondering how it went. You can arrive 10 to 15 minutes before every inspection or every open house. Walk around, turn all the lights on, open the windows, put a candle on or spray some air freshener. If you see some things on the bench, put them away. And so when the buyers arrive, even if you're 5 minutes early, you're standing at the front door, smile, ready to go. What if they arrive 5 minutes early? You're not running around flustered, or you haven't just arrived yourself and you're trying to figure out, you know, which key it is. These are like basic things, Kevin, but honestly, if you do these basic things well, you're great. Think of Uber. All they do is have a charger for your phone, mints in the cup holder, you know,
turn up on time
and the cars don't smell. Like, we're talking basic shit, right?
Yeah.
And if we as real estate agents do that, Kevin, there's no way we're going to get disrupted.
Wonderful stuff. What a great way to end our message. Daniel Argent, thank you so much for your time, my friend. It's been great talking to you.
Thanks, Kevin. Great talking to you as well.